This is the Queer Cinema Catchup recap and reaction to Yellowjackets Season 3, Episode 6, Thanksgiving, Canada. I'm going to quickly recap what happened in this episode and give you my take on what's working, what's not working, and where I think or maybe hope this series might be going from here. This is a recap for anyone who loves the premise and all the queer and female representation of Yellowjackets, but is maybe sometimes often disappointed by its execution. But you'll never give up hope. You're going to keep tuning in, much like our girlies thought Ben would keep hope alive. R.I.P. Ben. Let's start with what is usually my least favorite part of the episode, which is the adult modern day timeline. While I love our adult actors, their stories often feel cartoonish and not, for me, always in a fun, campy way. Misty and Walter are texting each other clues and evidence about Lottie's death, and one of these clues leads Misty to Lisa, aka the young woman who was in Lottie's cult last season, who Misty almost killed. Lisa is wary, but reveals that Lottie gave her $50K as an apology and was with Thaisa the night she died. Lisa saw them together. She also tells Misty that their friend Lottie just fell down the stairs. These crazy murder ideas are probably all in Misty and her other friends' heads. Misty tells Lisa she doesn't understand the bond or what they went through, which is pretty much what Shauna tells her daughter Callie, who in this episode tried to secretly record Shauna showing this random threatening DAT tape that had showed up at their house in an earlier episode to Thaisa and Van. Shauna tells Callie she's a child and can't understand. Callie says she was the same age as Shauna was as when Shauna was out in the wilderness and just wants to be close to her mom. Jokes on Shauna because children are often better at technology than adults, and this means Callie was able to access the recording of this mysterious tape because Shauna didn't delete it from the recently deleted folder. Going back to said tape, Shauna doesn't know who sent it to their home and thinks someone is trying to kill her or her family. She calls up Van to see if she has a reader for a DAT tape, because you might remember Van is the technology video person from in the past season. She owned a video store. Van is reluctant to help until she realizes that birders often use these kinds of tapes. I wonder what that's all about. Anyway, they all listen to the tape and feel equally horrified, though we, the audience, don't really know why, because we don't get to hear what's on the tape. Van has other problems. It seems that Thaisa might not be Thaisa after all. It seems like Dark Ty might be running the show, leaving our real Ty to beg Van for help while waking up in the middle of the night in a semi-conscious state, or somehow calling an old unplugged Yellowjackets phone that's in the box with the DAT player. We don't know how long that's been going on for, but it seems like Dark Ty may have been with us the entire season. Now let's get to the wilderness, where we find out why birders set Van on high alert. At the start of the episode, Ben's begging Natalie to kill him, but she can't because Aquila had a vision that said he's their bridge back to civilization at the end of last episode. As you might remember, he can't go anywhere because Shauna and Melissa cut his Achilles tendon at the end of last episode as well. Eventually, when his pleas for death fall on deaf ears, he goes on a hunger strike. About half the group decides to force feed him, and Natalie's conscience can't take it. She kills him, which finally gives Shauna the opening she needs to take control of the group with an assist from Lottie, because all of the girls feel betrayed by what Natalie has done. Shauna then tells Natalie she has to prepare the feast herself, aka, as we all feared, they do indeed eat Coach Ben. Lottie kind of looks around during this feast and thinks it's a little bit too solemn and sad, and she says to herself, this isn't right. She then begins to sing and scream and encourages everyone else to do so as well, and all of these voices eventually speak to and become the screams and sounds of the wilderness that have been frightening our girls all season long, suggesting that perhaps those sounds have always been them, unclear. And anyway, they're in the midst of this screaming, singing, dancing, I guess screaming, singing, dancing, party, ritual, whatever you want to call it, when, you guessed it, some birders show up. They say, hey, maybe they didn't expect to see a bunch of girls dancing out in the wilderness. Seems like they're about to talk to them until they notice that Coach Ben's severed head is right next to them. And that is how the episode ends, so I guess Ben was their bridge after all. All in all, I like the reveal that our girls were discovered way earlier than we thought. This elevated the episode for me from what's often felt like an expository, kind of unsurprising wilderness storyline, and then the over the top, not very grounded adult timeline. We already know that they're going to be there through another winter based on what they've told us in other seasons. So what's going to happen to our birders is now the question on my mind, and I'm pretty sure you're thinking like me that it can't be anything good. I'm personally still holding out hope that there's some twist related to the reality of what we're seeing. After Natalie Mercy kills Ben, we only see her and Misty on the screen, but we hear the voices of the other girls as they react to what she's done, but their voices almost sound like whispers. Later, Akilah has a vision in the cave where she's kind of seeing the camp and the girls are sometimes there, sometimes not, and she's asking, where is everyone, where is everyone? And these scenes made me think about, is everything we're seeing on Yellowjackets actually real? There also remain a lot of references to television shows. In this episode, Callie and her dad are laughing at a funny, kind of outlandish reality show that they probably filmed for this series. I don't think it's a real show. And Lisa suggests that the murder of Lottie is something these traumatized adults have invented in their minds because they need that narrative. The narrative of their entire survival is also a lie that's been set up from the very beginning of the series. And that just makes me, again, wonder what else might be a lie or not the whole truth or the story that they're telling themselves. What stories do we all tell ourselves in order to survive? It's all feeling very Life of Pi, or at least I hope that is where the show is going. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks so much for listening. This was Queer Cinema Catchup's recap of Yellowjackets Season 3, Episode 6, Thanksgiving, Canada.